Welcome to Geylang. So this is a picture of my childhood in Geylang, and it might be familiar for some of you who live or hear stuff in Geylang. So it is a picture of a raid that's happening. You might be able to see the police cars in the background, the red colored van. That's actually the Special Operations Command. So today I'm here to share with you about my perspectives growing up in Geylang, but beyond that also how do we engage as a citizen to some of the issues that we see around us on a daily basis. So Geylang is not just a place where I grew up, it was also a place where a lot of my friends that I subsequently met hung out at as well. So there's a group of workers that lived at the back alley behind my house. They didn't live at the back alley, but they lived in a shop house that shared the same back alley as me. I used to see them playing badminton in the back alley, and I always wondered, who are these people? Why can't they just book a community center and play badminton? Why do they have to go to a back alley? It's so dark, there's mosquitoes there, it's dangerous, right? As my parents would tell me. So one day I decided to find out for myself. I brought 200 plus 1.5 liter bottles down and offered them a drink, and in exchange, a chance to play badminton as well. It was free, I thought. You don't have to book a court, it's so convenient, it's just behind my house. And I used to think, whether I'll be able to communicate with them, and who were they, that they were playing badminton in such an area. I found out that they were from Bangladesh. This group of workers were working in the same electrical company. Therefore, they lived in a dormitory that was behind my house. When I went into their house subsequently, I saw that there were 8 people in one room, sharing one toilet. And to me, my main concern was who gets to go in the morning first. So many of them come from Bangladesh in a faraway land, but they came here to work. And when I asked further about their story, Basha, the guy in red, shared with me about his life. Basha had a twin brother, and he came to Singapore because their father had a stroke. And when they were coming to Singapore to work, there was a very big decision to make because they were in medical school. And for Basha, that decision to come to Singapore was not easy because they had to drop out of school. But dropping out of school didn't mean just a loss of potential education, that they could also have become the first doctors in their village if they had passed through the test and the entire degree program. For Basha, he was training to be a gynecologist. When he came to Singapore, it was natural that he became a very good electrician. Now, who are these people that I speak of? We have about 5.6 million people in Singapore. This proportion of people that we're looking at are called low-wage migrant workers. Typically, they earn below 1,005. But for many of them, they do not just consist of construction workers, but also people in the marine sector, foreign domestic workers who work in our homes, as well as the cleaners that we see around us on a regular basis. For many of them, it is a chance to have a better future, not just for themselves, but for their dependents who are back home, who depend on their salary to get by day, to receive education if possible, with enough money to break out of the poverty cycle. And that's one of the reasons why many of them travel far away to this developed country, Singapore. So judging by the number of people there are, we wonder what has happened in the timeline in Geylang since growing up. So on 8 December 2013, there was an event, not in Geylang, but in Singapore. Anybody remembered that night? You may remember if I show you this picture. It was the Little India riot. The night of the Little India riot involved migrant workers, of which 300 of them were involved, and a few of them were also deported back subsequently. It started because of an accident. One of the workers was run down by a bus, and as a result, the riot broke out, and the first responders arrived were perceived by the crowd as not enforcing justice on the bus driver and bus attendant who had run him down. So the riot started. How did that change the face of Geylang? The policies in Little India were transferred to Geylang, and they mainly affected the streets and the behaviors of the people on the streets. Because it was a migrant worker riot, a lot of these policies also targeted the social spaces and looked at their behaviors. Back alleys were a perfect place for them to hang out because it was free. And it was a place where after a long day at work, if you live in a house, in a room with 8 other people, you naturally want to step out to a quiet area, call home, talk to your family or your friends. For many of them, back alleys were the perfect place to do that because it was well ventilated. So back alleys were lit, might be a good thing, but also the liquor control zone was implemented. So in Korea, we have the DMZ. In Geylang, we have the LCZ, the liquor control zone. Specific timings of the day and specific days you cannot public drink. The last measure is, of course, increase in surveillance with different technologies like facial recognition, environmental sensors, so on and so forth. And all these measures were policies that were implemented post the Turn riot. And how did that change for a resident like me, or even for the group of friends that I hung out with at the back end? So one day while playing badminton, the police came. When they came, they took our IDs. And the first question they asked me was, why are you playing with them? And to me, I was confused because us and them, what was the difference? And one of the comments that was made was that these people cannot gather. These people cannot be in a group in a back alley, especially after the Little India riot. So there were concerns of a repeat, and there were also concerns of a subsequent riot. And for me, it was a revelation because these were my friends. And as friends do when they are in a faraway land, away from home, we become hosts. And to be a good host, what does it mean? So for me, I thought about ways of how I could bring conversations between Singaporeans and foreign workers better through Geylang and the back alleys. We organized events, parties, and just back alley hangout sessions with migrant workers that were in the vicinity, with migrant workers that had talents like poetry, singing, or sports. We realized things like arts, sports, cultures were really great in bridging barriers to understanding one another for who we are as a person, and not just for the work that we do and the labels that society has on us. We also organized events in their dormitories where they would hang out with locals and we'll cook a dish that workers would normally eat together with them. And that was really to bridge that barriers that we may have in our perceptions of them. So for me, I studied tourism in my university. One of the modules was on sustainable development. In the context of sustainable development, things about the future generations with limited resources, and also our sense of identity in this land that we call Earth. Being in Singapore, it was a social ecosystem, but zooming in on Geylang, these social ecosystems became real. These stakeholders were my friends, the people that I cared for. But beyond that, we existed not in our own silos, as we have seen from externalities like the Little riot, which changes the equilibriums. And as we also understood the post-riot measures, for me, my concern was really, how do I present the entire ecosystem? The other people who may or may not understand Geylang as a whole. So we know Geylang for being a red light district and a place for good food, but that was when our tours started to present Geylang as a social ecosystem. So we did tours from 2014 onwards, and eventually we took over 1,000 people in the first year through the streets of Geylang. With that same methodology of presenting neighborhoods and ecosystems, I looked at another neighborhood, one that my grandmother lived at. So that was in Dakota Crescent, a neighborhood that was a mix of rental and purchase flats. But in particular, in 2014, the news was announced that the residents in the rental flats would be relocated. Now, this rental flat community lived in old heritage houses that were built in 1959. And the significance of these houses architecturally was one, but what was more significant was the narratives that the residents in them had to share. Many of them were elderly, like my grandmother, limited in mobility, with communities formed with their neighbors and social nodes like the wet market and the hawker center, because they didn't have access to technology like Facebook, like young people did. They couldn't text their friend, send them a DM on Instagram to hang out with them, right? And that was what their daily routines was made of, with their neighbors, with their friends in their neighborhood, and supported by the community that they had. So when the news of Dakota's relocation was announced, together with some of the residents, we co-guided tours in the estate and took Singaporeans who cared about the issue of heritage through it, but surprising them as well with the value of the social narratives that the residents had to tell. Stories of how growing up, one of the residents would play by the river, and when it rains, it will always flood. And in the flood, one day he spotted a crocodile. And this narrative aligns very closely with Singapore's development. Crocodiles don't exist anymore in the rivers because they are now freshwater. The freshwater rivers have been a result of land policy and how we built the Marina Barrage, therefore converting the reservoirs from seawater to freshwater. So the residents' narrative was powerful in not just unpacking Singapore's development, but also the potential of how life used to be, and the value of play that they as children had. So together with the residents, we also collected social narratives like this and shared them with the public on a documentary website called Between Two Homes. documenting the lives of residents in Dakota Crescent before they were relocated. In the relocation process, there were many cleaning challenges for them. The challenge was of choice. How were they choosing where they lived at and with who? And a lot of time, purchase flats have certain privileges, like you can choose your neighbors to relocate with, up to 6 of them, and you can move together with them to your new community, to your new estate, to help you assimilate in that area. But for rental flat residents, a lot of times there's very limited choice that they have. Many of them being elderly, the social networks that they had to be restored. And that's where we came in with events, apart from the tours, that will also bring residents together through food as major platforms. The question that we always ask is, what is the society they want to create? And I guess that's where the power of youth come in. Often we exist not in our own silos, but with one another as interconnected social ecosystems as well. These are some headlines that we've seen in the news in recent times, and they are not uncommon, not just in Singapore, but globally as well. We see signs of radicalization, signs of xenophobia, and these are issues that we see on a day-to-day basis in the news. But is this the norm that we want to create in Singapore? With more races, with more identities coming in Singapore, how do we assimilate? One of the things that it reminds me of is how were new norms created? And these are some positive headlines on the flip side of people who have been trying to change in their own accord, in their own ways, in their own lives, to make this world a better place with themselves as a starting point. Basha, the guy that you saw in the first picture, was the first guy that I gave a haircut for. Back Alley Barbers started as a result of Basha coming to Singapore, and because he was saving that pot of money to send back home, he didn't cut his hair for 6 months. As a result, I learned on YouTube how to cut my own hair and offered him a free haircut. The initiative now spans 38 volunteers. We go around giving free haircuts at nursing homes, injured migrant worker shelters, as well as rental flat community. This morning, I was actually at the shelter, TWC2 Transit Worker Town to Editor, giving free haircuts. And one of our volunteers was actually an injured worker from HealthServe, and he gave me a haircut. So one of the plans and dreams that we have is also to build a methodology of employment, where we look at possible employability programs for injured workers to participate in, as well as building bridges using conversations that we have in our haircuts. So we have given over 2,000 haircuts so far. Another group of people that we hang out with, the friends that I used to play badminton with, we stopped playing badminton, but we changed sport to volleyball. So they're called the Bangladeshi Friends, and they hang out now at Kallang Field. It's still completely illegal because it's not a normal or designated volleyball court, but it's just an open patch of grass that no Singaporeans would really hang out with because it's just too hot. But Sundays being their only off days, it's also crucial that they gather together in legitimate social spaces. And for them, at the current capacity of 50 packs, this is kind of the limits of space that they can find. But it also reminds me of early clans and associations that started in Singapore by our forefathers. Early migrants who came far away from foreign countries to settle down in Singapore, eventually building what we call Singapore today. But as they form clans and associations of migrants, fellow migrants that come, they also look at giving back. And our early schools and hospitals were actually given by clans and associations. And for these migrant workers, although financially they're not really able to afford things, but we've seen how they've collectively come together to pool money together in times of their crisis, whether financially or for health. And for many of these workers, the model that they operate in is one based on community. And when we see value in migrant workers beyond the transactional nature that they have in Singapore society, we start seeing them as humans. These community elements are very strong points where we can help them to thrive in Singapore. Our dependency of migrant workers will not wean off in the next few years as we approach an aging population. We also strongly believe in seeing one another as humans, as equals, beyond the labels that we put on them and us, to understand one another collectively. This year we have called Citizen Adventures, and our focus is really on doing tours in these communities of Geylang and Dakota to show what these communities have to showcase their own strengths and their elements of the ecosystem methodology that we speak of. But beyond that, starting initiatives to bridge these barriers between Singaporeans and others. And beyond that, seeing us as fellow humans that bleed the same color can, if given the opportunity, to build a better future for ourselves and our loved ones, to thrive in an environment like Singapore. Thank you for your time.